let's get right on into TWIG. Welcome to TWIG, your weekly, geekly, family-friendly news show that tackles everything from Black Ops to everyone in Knives Out with some games in between. If you are listening in on the podcast version of the show, be sure to give us a good review. Click that like if you're over on YouTube, or come and listen live on twitch.tv/checkpointchurch every Tuesday night, usually at 8 p.m. Eastern. Tonight we are a little bit early at 7 p.m. Eastern. We have a special guest joining us as well. I am Nerd Pastor Nate. I'm the pastor here of Checkpoint Church, or a real-life church online. I'm a real-life pastor. And we are focused on nerds, geeks, and gamers, maybe like you. So before we get started, I'm going to let our guests introduce themselves with our opening segment of what have you been watching, playing, and reading. So first, let us know who you are, where you come from, why you're here, and then what have you been watching, playing, and reading. Take it away.
Sure thing. Yeah, so I'm Pastor David Petty. I am both a real live in-person pastor and an online digital space pastor. I pastor St. Paul's United Methodist Church in Colorado Springs, and I also lead our wild bunch of upstart gaming community, whatever you want to call it, over at Crossfire Faith and Gaming. I'm here mostly because of Wise and Lemur invited me to check in and come over here. And also, I'm going to make a little plug for our upcoming gaming summer camp, but I'll talk more about that later. But yeah, so that's me in a nutshell, unless there's anything else you want to know.
No, I love it. Now I just want to hear what you've been watching, playing, and reading.
Sure thing. So I've been watching a lot of Star Trek Discovery. Finally picked it up. Somehow I skipped over, I watched a bunch of Star Trek back in the day. Then I got back into Star Trek with some Picard and Strange New Worlds. Just kind of slept on Discovery. So I picked it back up and been watching through now mid-season 2 of Star Trek Discovery. Very much enjoying it. Then the other thing I watched recently was the Jim Henson Idea Man documentary on Disney Plus. Thought that was amazing. If you grew up with Jim Henson, it was amazing to watch that and kind of remember what kind of titan of industry he was, and in the industry of making magical moments with Muppets. But also kind of fun to watch it alongside my daughter, who was sitting next to me, and she was kind of, she knew who Kermit was, she knew who some of these characters were, but never really knew the man behind them. So it was kind of neat to hear some of her thoughts, getting to know the Jim Henson that I remembered from growing up, watching Jim Henson on TV. So that's what I've been watching. Playing, I recently played through Indica, which is a weird, adventure game, story-driven adventure game that dives into some really weird themes surrounding evil and good and holiness. And I've got a whole review on that coming out pretty soon, but very fascinating take on theology that was worth the while to go through it. Not sure I'd recommend it, but I'm not sure I wouldn't either. So, and then, some Rocket League, which is always just on the back burners of, easy pull out, play Rocket League. And then reading, it's been too long since I've read any good books for fun. So I don't read nearly enough.
Well, I have tons of recommendations. One of the one is the one that I'm reading right now. So be sure to let us know in the chat what you've been watching, playing, and reading. I have been watching, as usual, all of the anime. I am just catching up on all the stuff that's current in this season. I did get done watching The Little Lies That We All Tell. That was really fun. It did wrap up on kind of a cliffhanger for season 1. I described this show a couple weeks ago, but it is the most absurd thing. It is the silliest anime. The premise is it follows 4 schoolgirls, as most anime do, but they're all telling absolute lies. So one of them is a ninja that left their ninja village and is now attending this school. One of them is a crash-landed space colonel who definitely is an alien and has the Twin Tails hair with the little ties, but the ties are actually like tentacles. And then one of them can read minds. And so one of them knows that 2 of them are a ninja and an alien respectively, but can't reveal that they know, because then they would reveal that they can read minds and they aren't supposed to tell anybody. And then the 4th one is a cross-dressing boy that showed up because his sister didn't want to go to school and they look alike. So he showed up instead. And for some reason, the mind reading girl can only read girls' minds. So whatever, goes on there. And so it's just the antics that ensue between these 4 ridiculous characters. And it maintains a sense of ridiculousness and does not take itself seriously for even a moment. It was a really fun watch and just absolutely absurd. I've been playing Puzzmo still. I'm back into it officially with the new pile-up poker game. If any of you are ever interested in joining our Puzzmo group, I don't mean to brag, but we are getting higher and higher on the leaderboard every single week. I am waiting for the day that we're in the top 10. I cannot wait. I just know it's going to happen. I'm hoping Pile Up Poker will be the one that will put us over the edge if they start adding that into the scores. And then I just wrapped and rolled credits on Hypnospace Outlaw this afternoon. I really wanted that game to be better. Like, I didn't hate it. For those of you that are unfamiliar with it, it recreates a like terrible operating system experience, and you are basically a like Discord mod but in 1999. It's interesting, and it does have the like ridiculousness of dial-up internet and all that era. One of the funniest things, the gag that got me the best, is that the game dev made it so that if you wiggle your mouse, the system loads faster. And like, I can remember growing up and like saying that and being like, no, I swear, whenever I wiggle my mouse, I know it loads things faster. So they made that an actual thing about it, which is pretty ridiculous. But the story went some places, and I did not really enjoy the puzzle solving with it. So wound up not super liking that one, but I am fascinated by the game dev, who is an outspoken Christian, and I want to know more about him. And there was a lot of Christian elements to this that came up, like literally, like it was the internet. So there were a whole lot of like Christian spaces. There was even like basically like r/Christianity was essentially in there. So very fascinating game, but I can't say that I recommend the puzzles. Maybe play it for the experience, but have a walkthrough right beside you. Reading, I just started The Fourth Wing, which is one that has been on my list forever. If you're into dragons and fantasy stories, which I'm typically not, but I got this as a beach read and started it and got into it. And I'm currently about a quarter of the way through and enjoying it quite a good bit. It did take me out. I'm going to put out a TikTok that I recorded not too long ago of the main character's name is Violet Sorengale, and like all these characters keep dying. And in chapter 4, a character name pops up as like an obit, and the character's name is Braden. And I just couldn't with that. You got these crazy like Victorian, like Renaissance era names, and then you got a Braden thrown in there, and I couldn't handle it. Absolutely lost it. And I've been really getting into Playing as Others, a theology and ethical responsibility in video games book by Benjamin Chica. Another one out of Baylor, something about Baylor. They're publishing some really interesting books that I can't stop reading. This one in particular focuses on Paul Tillich and that kind of theology of pop culture. So I am thoroughly enjoying this. I've never read any Paul Tillich, and I'm going to now because I am thoroughly obsessed and can't wait to find out more. Gonna go through the chat just a little.
What was the name of that book again?
Here, I'll hold it up. Playing as Others, Theology and Ethical Responsibility in Video Games by Benjamin Chica. And let's see what we got going on here. Thank you for the subs also, and for that hype train from Gobi Church and Tina Christina P. Sugar Haiku has been watching Blue Period. For those of you that don't know, we are starting an anime club, and that is our first anime that we're going to be watching together over on the Discord. And also watching 1000 Times Resist Let's Play. It is so good. I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying it. Sugar, it is seriously a sleeper hit of a game that I did not expect to like as much as I have. Reading through Timeline, I'm super enjoying that as well. And then playing some Hades. That's our game for Button Bash Brigade this month. Coyote is watching Stargate Atlantis and Freerun. Very nice. Gobi Church is watching Hell on Wheels and Course Creator Training and is playing Cyberpunk. Let me know if you're going to get further in Cyberpunk this time or if you're going to get distracted, Gobi, because I'm excited for you. It remains to be one of my favorites, but nobody else likes it, and I just want more people to love that game. Tina Christina P. I was on an 8-hour flight this week, so I watched so many movies. Anyone But You, Madam Web, The Marvels, All of Us Strangers, and Disenchanted, and planning on continuing to play Hades. Coyote's also playing Vampire Legacy, a resource management sim, and Taylor's Secret, which is a merge game. And reading A Harry Potter is Rescued and Raised by Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier fanfic. That is some universe crossing that I did not expect to read today. And Tennille has been watching YouTube and some movies, haven't read much other than fanfics, and even that, not much. Well, good. Good stuff in there. Let us know what else you might have been watching, playing, and reading if you hop in a little bit later in the chat. But we're going to get into some of our news headlines for tonight, some of the things that are interesting and exciting this week in the week of Nerds, Geeks, and Gamers. Starting off with Black Ops. Microsoft has confirmed that Call of Duty Black Ops 6 will be available on all existing tiers of Xbox Game Pass from day one. This is following their acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Despite speculation about a new, more expensive Game Pass tier for day one titles, Microsoft stated that Black Ops 6 will be accessible to all Game Pass members without any additional cost. However, there's no word on whether current Game Pass prices might increase. This move aims to attract new subscribers to Game Pass despite concerns about potential sales impact and ongoing layoffs in Microsoft's gaming division. This was an interesting one to see. I think we were all expecting a new Black Ops, but I will be the first to tell you I was not expecting it to be a day one on Game Pass situation. I feel like we keep seeing so many like Xbox losses, like they're not winning. Everything's going kind of wrong. And then they do this, which is a really interesting move. You would have thought they might have tried to rake in the dough here, but I'm curious about this one. What thoughts do you have tonight, David?
Yeah, I expected this. I fully expected when they bought Blizzard, Activision Blizzard, that part of what they were doing was tentpoling their Game Pass subscriptions, because I think at this point they've kind of, they're less and less in the console game and more in the subscription game. They've put a lot of energy and effort into Game Pass and trying to get more people consistently on Game Pass, games as a service. And I think when they bought Activision Blizzard, everybody figured that part of what that was going to be was getting everybody into the Game Pass ecosystem. And then especially with a lot of those games too, they are games that you normally pay for and there are microtransactions. So I think they're not going to get the upfront payment, but if they can get enough people into them, they're going to get the bang for the buck on the back end with the microtransactions. So I'm actually not super surprised to see this as day one Game Pass. It will get more people into Game Pass.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that it's not a total blindside. I guess I'm not in the scene of Call of Duty, really. This just felt like such a flagship that I wasn't anticipating it to be this way. But it makes a whole lot of sense with the microtransactions being on the, like, we're going to rope them in and bait them and then see what happens once they get into it. I'm very curious to see how this goes. I know we've seen a little bit of, like, eyebrows raised about this. I continue to love Game Pass. I will say that I've maybe like laxed on it a little bit. I'm starting to play more from my like Steam backlog, and not really as many games coming out on Game Pass interest me. But that could just be a like waxing and waning of the games that they have. They certainly haven't backed off on bringing new games or anything like that. But yeah, intriguing to see where this one continues to go, and if they continue to make some big announcements in the next week or two, because we've got a whole lot of potential announcements that could be coming up, probably things that we've already at least heard about, but maybe we haven't heard that they're going to be a day one on Game Pass situation. We love Game Pass so much that we have a whole, like, whenever we watch these shows together, we have like a Kung Fu Carl would buy, would Game Pass, or won't play, like, icon that we all post after each trailer to say, like, that's how we feel about this game. So Game Pass is very much a part of our ecosystem as our own little gaming community. So curious.
Yeah, Game Pass feels like the syndication where, most of the time movies or, TV shows are on TV and then they would go to syndication. Game Pass feels like that for games, but then, in many ways it's also the Netflix of games. Last thing I just had to say about Call of Duty, I didn't realize how big of a franchise that was until all the Activision Blizzard sales stuff was going on, and I looked into it, realizing it is worth about $400 million a year to Activision Blizzard. So Microsoft now cashing those checks.
Yeah, it's insane. I would say it's like the one game that everyone that I know that wouldn't probably call themselves a gamer plays. And that's not a dig at Call of Duty players. That's just saying that I think it appeals to an audience outside of the gamer audience. It's what some people will buy a console for, right? So this is a big deal. And I'm curious to see if, I wish it would have almost been partnered with some kind of new, I don't know what they would do with the Series X, like the XS new, another X or whatever, just in continuing to improve upon it. I feel like that would have made a lot of sense and gotten
keep
those
adding
sales.
X's.
Right. That's dangerous waters they would be treading at that point. But yeah, I love it. So yeah, COD is the jock game. I wouldn't go that far, but maybe it definitely
like
appeals
football.
to the, yeah. I mean,
Like,
I think
even
that
people that aren't into sports, like they're into football.
Yeah, typically they're the ones that buy Madden too, or they might buy FIFA or whatever like that might be. Yeah, in Texas it's the jock game. It's definitely, like I said, kind of the outside circle. It's almost a different demographic. Like I see phone gamers also as being a very legitimate and outside branch. That is an interesting thing to study as we look at the gaming demographics. Okay, but with that, let us know if you have any thoughts. If you plan on playing this day one on Game Pass, if this is your kind of steez, were you incredibly excited to see this? Maybe you got out of COD and you're excited to get back into it, knowing that it's going to be a part of Game Pass. Would this get you to buy Game Pass if you didn't already have it? Would you sign up for that monthly subscription just based off of this alone? I'd love to hear those thoughts. With that, we're going to get into a quick rundown of everything that happened at the State of Play. A lot of people said it was a bit mid, and I think, it's trailers. I don't get myself too hyped up for these at this point. I just enjoy them for what they are. We did get a whole heck of a lot, so I'm going to run through them real quick, and then we're going to highlight just a few that David has already highlighted, and I'll see if there are any that interest me in the list as well. So we got one from Astrobot. We got a trailer about Concord from Firewalk Studios. Another look at God of War Ragnarok, Monster Hunter Wilds from Capcom, Dynasty Warriors Origin, Infinity Nikki, which is one that did get my attention because the weeb just dies hard within me. Ballad of Antara from Tipsworks, Behemoth by Skydance, Alien Rogue Incursion, Marvel Rivals is officially going to be on the PlayStation 5, Where Winds Meet, Until Dawn is getting remastered, and Path of Exile 2 and Silent Hill 2 Remake, the much anticipated Silent Hill 2 Remake. So let's go through a couple of those ones that you highlighted and why they interested you.
Yeah, I think one of the things I saw was this was a very Japanese-focused Game Pass, or not Game Pass, sorry, Japanese-focused State of Play from PlayStation. A lot of Japanese developers and games. There were a lot of games that I was really hoping for that I didn't see at all. Like I was hoping for more gameplay from Wolverine, or perhaps some of those games that we saw 3 years ago when they first announced them, and we haven't seen anything since. But the ones that interest me, I think Astrobot, super fun when that came out with the PlayStation 5, so I'm looking forward to more Astro. Looking forward to the fact that PC players are going to be able to get God of War Ragnarok, which, I had to go back in my memory to a time when I was not a PlayStation player and I was only a PC player. And I remember the fact that I was just itching and waiting for these games that people said were amazing, waiting for them to come out on PC. So I'm excited for people on PC to be able to get to experience more God of War. And really the rest of these, I was not too excited about until we got to Silent Hill 2 Remake. And I will say the only reason that I'm so excited about that is because I love Kojima games and I love the worlds that get created there, and I've never played or experienced anything in the Silent Hill universe, and I've been told that they're really, really good. But I'm also one who's kind of picky when it comes to graphics in games, and it's very challenging for me to go back and play a game that's like 5 years old that had top of the line graphics 5-10 years ago. So to try and go back and play like a Silent Hill game from forever ago, I'm excited about a remake. So if it's a true remake with new textures and all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, I'm definitely interested in seeing where that one continues on and how it actually performs. Is it going to be a Resident Evil situation where whenever they bring back the remakes, the revisions, it does super well? Or is it going to fire back on them a little bit? I know the Silent Hill game that just came out, that was more of like an independent game, didn't do too hot. So there's a question of how it will go and in what direction the winds will blow for them. I agree that Astrobot was very exciting. I super enjoyed the demo Astrobot kind of PlayStation experience where it really tapped into all the things that the PS5 could do. I honestly, maybe it's just the like mascot gamer in me that loved the Nintendo 64 so much, and like I want another Banjo-Kazooie, and every now and again there are games that scratch that itch for me. I almost didn't want this to be so much of a like, this is all of our PlayStation mascots. Like I want Astrobot to be his own mascot and to play my own platformer with him and then have maybe some like moments from other games, but I didn't really need that aspect of it. So as much as I enjoy seeing the Astrobot like Kratos down there and all the characters from all the universes, I would just as well have taken an Astrobot game, fully fleshed out and experienced there. And so, yeah, that's where I fall with that one. Infinity Nikki is interesting. I'm trying to remember what I saw. I saw some meme about what this game was going to be like, but I am just a weeb. It really does come down to, I like the graphics, I like the art style, and I'm like, sure, I'll probably give that one a shot unless I find out it's some super corrupt gacha game in the end. It'll depend on just how bad that element of it is. And I'm excited about Marvel Rivals. I've only gotten to watch a couple of the betas. Like I know that Humar Whit-Ill has been playing some of it as it's in its kind of like alpha release. And so I'm curious about it. I super enjoyed Overwatch. I know that it's not Overwatch, but it's very much also Overwatch. And I want to know if I like if it's able to get the friend group back together. I think that's going to be what kind of floats this boat or not. If my Overwatch group is interested in getting back together and playing it, I'm all on board. But if they aren't back on board, then it'll probably just be another one that passes me by. So let us know down in the comments what you might think was interesting from this one. I see DGC was also interested in Infinity Nikki and Monster Hunter Wilds and Astrobot. Very nice. Yeah. I think Astrobot was the winner. I think that was kind of universally the, like, everybody was excited about Astrobot that saw this one. And I see no qualms with that. I love that they're getting another one of those that we get to play through. With that, let's get into the next one. Next story.
So we got a cast for Knives Out 3. We got some interesting updates about Knives Out 3, officially titled Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery, and shaping up with some big names as Daniel Craig returns as Detective Benoit Blanc, joined by Jeremy Renner, who is making his first feature film since his 2023 accident. Other notable cast members include Mila Kunis, Glenn Close, Kerry Washington, Andrew Scott, Josh Brolin, Josh O'Connor, Kaylee Spaney, Daryl McCormick, and it says this star-studded lineup follows the success of the first two films, with the third installment set to release on Netflix in 2025 as part of a major deal with the streaming platform. I gotta say, loved the first Knives Out, loved the Knives Out 2 series. Just thought overall that Glass Onion, right? Overall, I thought it was a fantastic murder mystery, just a wonderful universe. I think when Netflix bought Knives Out, I was really curious because of the amount of money they spent on the platform or on the IP, right? And I was like, what are they going to do with this that's going to be worth that much money? Well, I think this is the answer. So Netflix, good on you for doing well by this IP. What do you think?
Yeah, I am so excited for it. I love the original Knives Out. It's this whole universe has become one of my favorites. I grew up reading Agatha Christie and have always been a big fan of the murder mystery novel. And I think that this is sort of the modern generation's version of that. I think Benoit Blanc is a great character, and Daniel Craig performs him so well that it really doesn't matter who the supporting cast is. It's just going to be a great time. I super enjoyed Glass Onion, and I will be like, it doesn't matter. I think with Glass Onion, they released it or something at the middle of the night, and I stayed up and watched it. I was so excited to watch it, and I will stay up for this one if it also releases late at night, because I'm into it. I'm into the universe. I love Kerry Washington. I've always been a big fan of the Shonda Rhimes universe of TV shows. My wife got me into those. And so I'm excited to see her in something. And Jeremy Renner, take it or leave it. I like Jeremy Renner, but some people are a little bit more middling on him. I'm curious to see where they go with this one. I wasn't expecting the direction that they took, like Ed Norton's character in Glass Onion and the kind of commentary that they made on that one. They've talked about rich families, and they've talked about rich, movie stars at this point, the billionaires kind of poked fun at the Jeff Bezos of the world. And so now I'm curious to see, what are we going to get in this third one? Who are we going to poke fun at and have a good time with? So I'm all out excited, and I can't wait for this one. Yeah. And they do have, it is star-studded, but it's like there are as many names as there are. It's typically not it doesn't feel like it's the current trending leading cast. It's like a leading, it borrows from different eras of leading casts and then throws in some that are some unexpected. Like Glenn Close. I could not have ever predicted that Glenn Close would be in this. What a random pull for this one. And
and I think I have to correct myself here. I was wrong. For some reason, I thought that that Glass Onion was a series. Maybe it was such a long film that I felt like it was a series, but it was good. I enjoyed the whole thing. But yeah, definitely interested to see what they do, because the third one now is going to be a series, right?
I don't know. I imagine it's going to be a feature film, but it could be. I know it mentions there Jeremy Renner in his first feature film, so maybe that could be. So that could be AI just making an assumption whenever it made this summary.
Well, and it could just be me assuming that, because Netflix had it, that they might turn it into a series. Who knows?
Yes. It reminds me of the HBO show that I'm obsessed with as well, White Lotus. And it's
Oh,
like
yes.
this is very similar in the sense of like this weird mystery, star-studded, with some people you really recognize and some people you really don't, and it just tells a good story. Obviously, those are significantly more adult than the Knives Out series, but nonetheless really fantastic. And so we're getting some great television and some great movies, and I think it is probably next to the anime that Netflix continues to support. It is my favorite thing that Netflix does. I would have probably said Love, Death, and Robots before this, or maybe a Black Mirror, but I think I like Knives Out just about more than all of them because it's so pure is not the word, but that's the word that's coming to mind. Like it's just an innocent, good time, whereas the other ones are a little bit heavier and way a little bit heavier. Like I feel like I could watch these movies a million times and they would never get old.
Sure. Now, does Stranger Things make your Netflix list?
Oh, that's a good point. Here's the thing with Stranger Things, though, is that I love Stranger Things, but they just take so long, and
Yeah.
it's such a gap between them, and there's so much time for the actors to make mistakes between movies or between series, and just really like step in some mud on the way, and yeah. That kind of stuff can really put down a like, I've known, this character since they were literally like 9 and now they're like trying to figure out their role in the world of TikTok. So yeah, it's a mess. I would not envy anyone that is having to make themselves in this, but yeah, I don't know. Stranger Things is definitely up there, but it just takes so long. And season 2, I think, was the season that I didn't enjoy as much, but season 3 did it for me. And yeah. Curious stuff. I'm not a hater of Netflix. I know some folks are, but I think that they do some pretty interesting things. I'm sure they've also messed up some things, but this is definitely one of their things that gets me very excited. 2 thumbs up from me. And it looks like we got some similar thoughts there in the chat. As DGC, is that about Stranger Things taking forever as well? Sugar Haiku, can't wait for more Stranger Things. Household is excited. Tina Christina P is also very excited about the new Knives Out. Unique and weird characters. Yeah, I mean, it really does. Like, it feels like a fully realized Agatha Christie with just these strange characters. And I love it. Yeah, death of the author. I mean, I'm not saying that any of them have done anything like cancelable. I don't think any of them have. I know that the one like Big Brother, Will's brother, or whatever his name was, Jonathan, he had some like legal troubles, but I don't know. I don't keep up with them that close. I'm not into the whole, ethos of all of that, but there's a lot of time for them to not be their characters. And I feel like they're a victim of social media being the way that I know them. Like I have a feeling it'd be the same way. Like I think about a show like Chuck. That was a show that I, grew up on absolutely loving. And if I had been able to follow, what's the actor's name now? It's Zach Levi. If I was able to follow Zach Levi on Instagram, I would probably take away from my love of his character as Chuck. Because for me, he got to be Chuck for 5 years before I knew him as Zach Levi. And I love Zach Levi, but I knew him as Chuck. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's where I'm going with that one. So we need to move on to the next one before we ramble forever. So it's always good topics. We're going to talk about Tom Bombadil. I posted this over in Discord the other night and nobody was excited as I was. This is a big deal. This is unheard of. Tom Bombadil, a mysterious character from J.R.R. Tolkien's works, is set to make his first appearance in the mainline adaptation in season 2 of The Rings of Power. Played by Rory Kinnear, Bombadil is depicted in images released by Vanity Fair, showing him in his house during a meeting with a stranger from season 1. Known for his omnipotence and whimsical songs, Bombadil's role in the series places him on the outskirts of Rhûn, a region turned wasteland. The showrunners describe Bombadil as slightly more interventionist than in the books, nudging the stranger to protect the natural world. The Rings of Power Season 2 premieres on August 29th, followed by the anime The Lords of the Rings, The War of Rohirrim in December. And 2 new Lord of the Rings movies, including The Hunt for Gollum, are also in development. I love Tom Bombadil. I think he's such a great character. Honestly, one of the most redeeming characters in the book for me, because those books are long, and Tom Bombadil is just kind of a breath of fresh air and a bunch of words. And so I super enjoy that the character is being realized and brought into the Rings of Power, and especially whereas the Rings of Power season 1 was just kind of okay. It was pretty, but like it didn't do a whole lot for a lot of folks. It was like a solid 7. I think Tom Bombadil could be somebody that could take it over the edge for me and just be a super memorable character. A toss a coin to your Witcher-esque character, if you will. Do you have any thoughts on this one?
It's going to be stuck in my head for the rest of the day. Toss a coin to the Witcher. All right. Yeah, I am a huge fan of the series, but I actually never read the books. Probably just, I don't know, somehow it just never, the J.R.R. Tolkien books just never found themselves on my shelf. I think all my family read them, but somehow not me. So I actually have no idea who Tom Bombadil is, but I liked the Rings of Power, and I think the Rings of Power for me, because I watched it, I loved it, and I think it was one of those like so many other IPs where people who were not familiar with it loved it, and people who were familiar with it, it wasn't good enough.
Yep.
So I thought Rings of Power was phenomenal. It looked gorgeous. The story was great, but I understand how for purists and lovers of the books, maybe it was not what you were hoping for. So, but yeah, I have no feelings one way or another on Tom Bombadil other than there's a picture of a guy in a hat in a house.
Well, hopefully you enjoy the character and have a lot of fun with him. And maybe
I'll
if
be
you go
looking
back
out for him
and read through the books, you'll experience the glory. I mean, his character was described as known for omnipotence. So obviously he's a pretty hilarious character. He's I don't want to go this far. He's not Deadpool, but he's not the Deadpool of the Tolkien universe, which is ridiculous. But it's the closest thing that we've got in Lord of the Rings, and he's just a fun character all around. So worth the time, and I'm excited to be seeing an appearance. On to our next one.
All right, so this one comes from Sony, which has pulled a controversial interview with Naughty Dog's Neil Druckmann after Druckmann highlighted several errors and inaccuracies about the interview. The interview included misquoted statements on AI and Naughty Dog's next game, which Druckmann clarified on social media, saying that the context and intent of his words were lost during editing. He expressed excitement about the new project, but did not claim that it would, quote, redefine mainstream perceptions of gaming. So Sony apologized for the misrepresentation and any negative impact on Druckmann and his team, and subsequently removed the interview. The new project will be Naughty Dog's first major game since The Last of Us Part 2 in 2020, following the cancellation of their multiplayer game. This, I think, is fascinating because, number one, it just shows you how big of a deal Naughty Dog is to Sony, that Sony was like, oh, let's just take care of this for you. Like, let's make sure that we smooth everything over. Like, we need to keep Neil Druckmann happy because Neil Druckmann is like, sits at the right hand of Sony. So, I think great that they took down the interview that misquoted him. I'm not super familiar with anything about the new game or the new IP. It is interesting that they were talking about that this is really going to be, I did see part of the interview that they basically said, we are not going to be the Last of Us studio forever, right? And so they're trying to branch out a little bit to be known for different games. I mean, obviously there's Uncharted and lots of others, but certainly I think Naughty Dog is still the Last of Us studio. So what are your thoughts, Nate?
Yeah, I do. I enjoy The Last of Us. I enjoy the series, and I enjoy Neil Druckmann as an interview, but I missed this one entirely. And I almost feel like I wouldn't have heard about this if it hadn't have been for the kickback. Like, I guess it does say controversial interview, and maybe it made the rounds and I just missed them because I was on vacation. But all I ever saw was that there was a controversial interview that was taken down. I don't know much about what it was actually about and where it actually went, but just from what it sounds like, a redefining mainstream perceptions of gaming and something around AI. I mean, I understand how that is kind of become like buzzwords, but I don't know. I think that it does exactly what you said, and it shows just how tight this connection is, but maybe it would have been better off not saying anything at all. I don't know. I'm uncertain about where this one could go. I do think that it would be great to see something new from Naughty Dog, something exciting beyond The Last of Us. But I think that I think that with the popularity of the show, I just wonder how likely that actually is. I wonder if we're just going to be kind of shoehorned into that for at least a little bit longer. I don't know. Yeah. Curious to see.
I certainly hope that they're also working on The Last of Us Part 3 as well. But, I really want to see where those characters go in Part 3. But, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, this will be interesting to see if we get like a re-up, if there'll be like a make good interview with Neil and we'll start to hear something else about it, or if it's just going to be, nope, walked it back on social media and that's what you get. Yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where this continues and what we hear next from Naughty Dog. With that, we're going to get into our final of our major news stories, a fascinating one to me. This is one that I I had to like read it several times because I didn't really understand. I'm in the United Methodist Church. We both are. And so I'm outside of the realm of the Catholic experience. And so maybe I'm unfamiliar with just how all of this works, or I don't even know where you get news. Is there a Catholic news service? Surely there's multiple. So
all I know is my good friend used to watch EWTN, which was a Catholic news broadcasting station based out of Alabama. So
I'm certain
there's Catholic news.
They had several runnings of this one, no doubt. Carlo Acutis, a 15-year-old programmer who died of leukemia in 2006, is set to become the first millennial saint after Pope Francis recognized his second miracle. Known as God's influencer, Acutis created websites documenting Eucharistic miracles. His second miracle involved the healing of Valeria Valverde, a Costa Rican student who recovered unexpectedly from a severe head injury after her mother prayed at Acutis' tomb. This follows his first recognized miracle in 2013, involving the healing of a Brazilian boy. Acutis' canonization will mark a significant step following his beatification in 2020. This whole thing blows me away. I don't know much about this whole process of becoming a saint, and especially of these, I don't know if this is even an appropriate term, but the posthumous miracles is something that is fascinating to me as well. Both of these miracles were done after his passing away and before he was known for some reason as a God's influencer online. I did know that it was still possible for people to become a saint. I have heard the thing about 2 miracles before. I didn't know if that was like rumor mill, theology, or if that was an actual thing. But I've heard those things before. I've never heard this name before. And it is interesting, like, I'm just thinking 2006, where the internet even was, I don't think that the term influencer was around. So even that is posthumous. It's very curious. I don't doubt the power of miracles. I don't doubt the spiritual gift of it and all of that good stuff. But this whole thing is intriguing to me, and I just want to know more. It does make sense that you can only gain sainthood after death. What I'm confused about is the miracles after death. That's kind of what is confusing to me, if that makes sense. I'm not confused about the fact that you can't become a saint until after death.
Yeah, and I was trying to think, like you were saying, like, where was I in 2006? Like, I was watching Homestar Runner and videos on albino black sheep on Adobe Flash. Like the internet in 2006, YouTube was not really a thing. Facebook was not a thing. Some of us had MySpace accounts. Yeah, definitely the concept of influencing. We didn't have Instagram. There was no TikTok. There were no people making money on those platforms. Though I guess there were still gamers and they were influencing things. But yeah, so that's a weird one, the 2006 date. And yeah, the posthumous miracles that somebody prayed at the tomb, and that's considered a miracle of the deceased who lay in the tomb. But, then again, I guess any of these things are always interesting. It reminds me of like the debates on whether or not we could do communion during COVID, and all of the different churches that said, well, if you touch the bread and you're in the same room, well, if it's live, you can't do pre-recorded communion, depending on which different denomination was looking at it which way. So I guess cool that now there's a gamer saint for the Catholic people, but
yeah, I wasn't allowed
to. Do not get
to
Vatican news.
I wasn't allowed to even enter into my like provisional elder's position in the UMC until this following year, whenever we could have annual conference and the bishop could lay hands. And so even that was like a weird boundary that we were trying to decide whether or not to set via the power of the Holy Spirit in that moment. So it is curious. It's a weird thing. And like, I'm not by any means trying to proclaim that as a United Methodist, we don't do weird things as well. Like, the spirituality itself is undebatably strange. It is supernatural. Right. And so I don't want to take away from that element at all. I almost wish some of our Catholic members of our Discord were around tonight, because I would love to hear their perspective on this as being more in the culture than I can attest to. For me, it's an outsider looking in, thinking how curious this is. But I would love to know how the debate and the conversation is actually going from within the actual subculture itself. Curious stuff. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you are a Catholic member here in the chat, let me know your thoughts, or reach out and I would love to share whatever you have to say after the fact over on our Discord or in the comments of this video when it gets posted. But with that, we're going to get into our next part of the show and everybody's favorite part. Here comes the stinger. Cryptic Critiques. right, so this is Cryptic Critiques. I explained it a little bit before the show started, but I'll go into it once again. So I have found 1-star reviews of much beloved games, and I'm going to read them off for our guest who does not know what the game for tonight is, and see when he can get them based off of the clue. If you are in the chat,
I'm trying to guess, right?
You're trying to guess what the game is.
Oh gosh.
And in the chat, do not guess until after our guest gets a chance with all 3 clues. If you want to play along, feel free to type in the chat box and just don't hit enter until you officially are allowed to make a guess, because I don't want any hints. I have a feeling you're going to get it. I think these are pretty easy ones tonight, but I have been in the hot seat before, and I know that it is not always as easy as it seems. So even though I tried to make them fairly easy clues, there's really no
I also just feel like I generally don't know a ton of games, so like it could be a very obvious thing for a game that I just am not aware of. So I mean, maybe that's a good question. Can I ask that? Is this a game that I like probably know?
I think you know it, and I think you're going to get it real quick. The clues are very limited to what games they can even be. So I think we're going to get it in a prompt 1. I think you're going to get it in the first one. I'm going to make that bet. We'll see how it goes. So our first prompt for tonight's Cryptic Critiques. Again, this is a much beloved game that has gotten several 1-star reviews. I take those reviews that I find the funniest and read them off. Our first one is, sweet, they made a fishing mini game, the full game. Prompt number 1, sweet, they made a fishing mini game, the full game. They didn't put \S, but I put it on there because it was a 1-star.
The first thing that comes to my mind is Dave the Diver.
Dave the Diver, a solid guess. We'll see if prompt number 2 changes that or shifts your perspective on it at all. The second prompt is, I'm terrified of the depths and giant fish. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm terrified of the depths and giant fish. I don't know what I was thinking.
I mean, definitely still gives some Dave the Diver vibes, but you know, the other thought that came to mind was Dredge, right?
All right.
There's lots of things to be terrified of in Dredge, maybe more than Dave the Diver. But the other game that came to mind that I'm pretty sure it's not is, now I'm forgetting the name of it, the fishing shotgun game. What is that called? Ridiculous Fishing. I'm pretty sure this is not Ridiculous Fishing.
Not Ridiculous.
I'm still gonna go Dave the Diver.
All right. So we've got some other options thrown in here. Let's see if prompt number 3 cements it one way or the other. Prompt number 3, Ayo, these eldritch horrors, pretty chill though. Ayo, these eldritch horrors, pretty chill though.
Eldritch Horrors. I don't even know what that is.
Like Cthulhu or monsters or like Spawn.
Okay, well then probably. Now I'm really on the fence between Dave the Diver and Dredge.
I believe in you. You got this.
Final answer. I feel like it's going to be Dredge, but I'm still going to hold the Dave the Diver because there are definitely weird things like that in Dave the Diver. But it's probably going to be Dredge. So, but final answer, Dave the Diver.
Final answer, Dave the Diver. You should have gone with the other one. It is indeed Dredge. Dredge is the one
of my
for
favorite
tonight.
Games.
I'm going to give it to you because I think you were right on the fence there.
Oh, I was so close. I was so close. And the other thing is that, you know, the recent collab DLC, the Dave the Diver Dredge crossover minigame within Dave the Diver, so good.
It counts.
So good. If you haven't played
it
those
totally
games,
counts. They're
so
the same
good.
game as far as I'm concerned. They've got the same elements there. Just one, you know, you make them into sushi, and the other, they make you into sushi. So regardless, let's get some chats in the clap. Congratulations to Dave getting Dredge.
That was fun.
Yeah, always a good game. And my favorite one was just the Eldritch Horror is pretty chill though, because I remember thinking that same thought playing Dredge I was like, you know, for spooky, horrible monsters, they're kind of just like swimming near me and then they go. like they're pretty tame,
right?
All things considered. Now, granted, sometimes they're not as tame, but yeah, for the most part, they're pretty chill. And I'll take it where I can get it. All right, with that, we are going to get into our next segment of the show. This is To the Discord. These are segments submitted by you over in our Discord server for Checkpoint Church. So we have 3 stories tonight from different members of the community. The first one comes from a member, TWIG. Netflix and Mojang Studios have announced a new Minecraft animated series, co-developed with animation studio Wildbrain. This series will feature an original story with new characters set in the Minecraft universe with a release date, while the release date has not been revealed yet. Wildbrain has previously co-developed popular animated series for Netflix, including Sonic Prime, Ninjano, Dragons Rising, and Carmen Sandiego. Additionally, a live-action Minecraft movie, additionally announced in 2014, is now set to release on April 4th, 2025, starring Jack Black, Jason Momoa, and Jennifer Coolidge. So, pretty cool stuff there that we're getting, not just the movie that has long been purported, but now we're also getting a TV series. I have not watched the other 2 series, but I did enjoy Sonic Prime over on Netflix, and this whole thing is bizarre. It is bizarre, and I imagine it will do well. I mean, the Five Nights at Freddy's movies did very well enough to get a second one, and I imagine this will do well enough. It's certainly one of the most popular things of all time, and I imagine the fan base is going to be pretty rabid about it. I think they're going to enjoy it quite a bit, and I'm glad that Tina Christina P was here for this one to hear the Minecraft story. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah,
I know y'all have a Minecraft server. We have a realm. So both of the communities, clearly we know that is a way of building community. And so that is probably what they're getting at here as well.
Yeah, we had a realm for a while, and we eventually went to the server because we had some folks that wanted to do Java and some folks that wanted to do the Bedrock. And the neat thing with our realm is our server is it can be both. But yeah, so I am fascinated to see what they do with this. If like the animated series is anywhere similar to like the Minecraft story mode stories, but it says new story, new original story, new characters. So that's interesting. And I'm super interested. Animated makes a lot of sense to me, but like the live action Minecraft movie, I have no idea what to expect because when I think of Minecraft, I don't think live action. I think blocks and animation and digital things. So I'm very curious, but I feel like given that it's got Jack Black, I don't expect Jack Black to do properties that are not doing well. And I've liked pretty much everything he's been in. So yeah, it's live action. This movie is going to be live action with Jack Black. And that, I think they actually just wrapped filming in New Zealand like a few months ago. So that will be fascinating. But this news about today is Netflix and Mojang developing a animated series.
Yeah.
What do you think? Are you excited for him?
Very curious to see. What I'm honestly more excited for than the movie itself is the first trailer, because it's going to tell us everything we need to know. We're gonna get everything from that trailer. We're gonna see what angle they're going from when it comes to what do they mean by live action, and we're gonna get to hear whose characters are who. I don't think the cast list, beyond just the actual casting, I don't think anybody's been confirmed for any roles, is what I'm saying. So I don't know what that's gonna be, but the trailer is what I want to see. And you know what?
Yeah,
I think Summer Game Fest, I want to see it. Let's see that trailer Friday night. That's what I'm hoping for. I doubt it.
Wasn't Jack Black confirmed to be Steve?
Is he confirmed? I'm not sure.
I think, well, at least according to IMDb, which this is another thing, the cast also includes Kate McKinnon and Jermaine Clement as well. So that will be, and Danielle Brooks. So, and it does say on there, the only confirmed are Daniel Brooks is playing Dawn and Jack Black is playing Steve.
Well, there you go. So we do at least have 2 confirmed. And that does mean that they are using Steve as a character. So that will be intriguing as well. It means they're sticking to that story at least somewhat, or at least using that character somewhat. So yeah. Kate McKinnon also has been in a lot of random movies here and there, video game, pop culture characters. So yeah. It's intriguing. I will be watching it. I'm sure if it's actually good, I'll be writing a nerdy sermon on it, but I am nonetheless just excited for that first trailer. That's the thing that I really want to see what happens. But yeah, perfect timing. Humar Whittle hopping in. Well, not great news, but more news coming in here from Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast has clarified a recent job posting for a principal AI engineer, which led to concerns among Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering fans about the potential use of AI in their beloved tabletop games. The company explained that this role is focused on developing AI for future video game projects, not for their core tabletop product. Wizards emphasized that their stance on AI remains unchanged, which is hilarious, and they do not use AI-generated art or content in their tabletop games. This clarification comes after past controversies where AI-generated content inadvertently made it into some of their products, prompting swift corrections and apologies from the company. Wizards continues to prioritize human creativity and talent in their game development. Yeah, it sounds like we can throw over to One Geek 411 for Cam's full take on how this went and what this was about. And there's also a level of this was just the summary written from the article itself. So there's been a lot that Wizards of the Coast has continued to step in over the past year with AI. And this is just one further like nail in the coffin. I don't know what's going on with them in AI. I don't know why they're like just insisting on it at this point. They're insisting on backlash, and they just keep on making these little errors that get them in trouble. And I don't know what the deal is. They're like the polar opposite of Epic Games, because I want to dislike Epic Games, but they keep making all these wonderful choices. Wizards of the Coast, I want to love, and they keep on making horrible choices. And so I don't know what's going on there, but we have quite a kickback on AI within the Checkpoint community. And this one just continues to lean into the generative stuff and keeps getting caught for it. That's why I said the fact that their stance remains unchanged is hilarious, because they have changed their stance so many times. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this one?
I don't have a whole lot of thoughts specifically about this, but I do think that AI is a fascinating world, right? The questions of whether AI is okay or not okay, and the ethical dilemmas that come up with AI generated anything, the legality, right, of AI, and whether or not the recent legal thing that came out that you cannot copyright AI content, which makes a weird question then about whether you can copyright something that contains AI content, even if the content itself, like if I used AI to create pictures and then use those pictures to create a book, the pictures wouldn't be copyrighted, but the book could be, right? So I don't know. I think it's really fascinating, but I'm still on the fence when it comes to AI, and do not have strong convictions one way or another. Put it that way.
Yeah. I think that the best way forward has been the way that we have a lot of like back and forth on Google and on Alphabet and on the way that they handle things. But I continue to think that YouTube and Google have been the most upfront about AI. And I think that is at the core of like my pastoral principle, is that I want to see like AI handled in the most ethical way possible. And I think that transparency is the best way we can do that right now. And so I feel like that is where Wizards just keeps on failing for me, is they just refuse to be transparent. They refuse to be upfront, and they really refuse to kind of admit their mistakes and just sort of accept the kickback. If they're going to lean into AI art, then they might as well just do it and figure out how to come up with an ethical way of doing that, instead of just keeping on like trying to sneakily do it over in the corner and just hope nobody notices. And I do agree that I think that what Cameron said in the chat there is like, what is it? Why do you only care about human creativity whenever it comes to your tabletop? But this one's just for video game projects. It's not a big deal. It's just for those video games. Like, it sounds like they're like trying to create shovelware, and they just couldn't care less about the games that they actually are working on. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, and I don't know why they keep stepping in it. But for some reason, they are just insistent on it. I agree that AI is a weird, nuanced subject. I am personally very curious about it, and I keep experimenting with it, and I've been very transparent about that, because again, I think that's the most ethical way forward, is to acknowledge that I have experimented with AI. I don't particularly use generative AI just because I honestly find it unhelpful. I think it's very hard to work with, and I can probably just create the thing myself. But what I use it for is a whole lot of organization and administrative tasks that it's able to minimize. And so, yeah, there's the meme out there that you've probably seen with AI where it's like a tweet that somebody says, I wanted AI to do my laundry and clean my dishes so that I could make art, and instead AI is making my art so that I can do more laundry and dishes. That's how I feel about it.
Right.
Like I want my administrative tasks out of the way because I don't like them, so that then I can do the fun stuff. And That's kind of where I resonate with it as well. And so I guess like I just want transparency. I just want honesty.
Right.
I just want them to be upfront about what they're doing. And I don't know why. I don't know who is their PR person, but they're not a very good spinner. They're not very good at it, and they could use some work. Yeah. All right, on to our last of our To the Discord segment. This is also submitted by Twyla. Twitch has disbanded its current Safety Advisory Council, replacing its members with Twitch ambassadors. According to an internal email viewed by CNBC, existing contracts were terminated on May 31st, 2024, and the members will not receive payments for the second half of the year. The council, originally formed in 2020 to address trust and safety issues, was comprised of online safety experts and Twitch creators. The new council will now consist of Twitch ambassadors, aiming to provide fresh, diverse perspectives. Twitch, which now has over 180 streamers in its ambassador program, did not comment on whether the new council members will be compensated. This one, I honestly did not remember they had a safety advisory council that was formed in 2020. Maybe it was just because of the rampant spike that we saw in streaming in 2020. And that's why they were like, okay, we got to do something because there's way too many people watching all of a sudden, with the pandemic and all that good stuff. But I say more power to the people. I like hearing that the people that are on the platform, that are in the ambassador platform, are being given more of a voice. I do think that I liked that we read about online safety experts, and I'd love that to stay around. I feel like I want those people to be in the conversation. I really have no thoughts on this one beyond the fact of like, I didn't even know they had a safety council, and I'm glad to hear that they're not just getting rid of it entirely.
Yeah, I think my only thoughts here are, it wouldn't surprise me just with a lot of layoffs in the games industry in general. It wouldn't surprise me if this is kind of a, hey, we need to save some money and we're not going to pay people anymore. And so I'm struggling with that piece of it. On the one hand, like, yeah, more power to the people. I love it when people are like, distributed power instead of concentrated power. Also, in some ways, right, if they're not compensated, then there's not a financial motivation. On the other hand, especially in the church world, I've seen it so often where, we just expect that volunteers will pick up the slack to do all the things. And so you end up with this mega church that's got the 500 volunteers on their volunteer team, none of whom are getting paid, and 20 to 30% of which are doing 100% of the work. And they're being totally overloaded, but told that, if they just do it for the greater good, then, it's all going to be good. So there's definitely some like weird ethical, logistical pieces that, depending on the motivation behind it, depending on why they're doing it, and depending on what the new group is going to do versus the old group, I don't know where I land on this. But yeah, I didn't know that they had an advisory council. Was not aware of that. I clearly was not asked to be on it. So
yeah, where's the faith safety? Where do we have that? I know Facebook has got it, but Facebook's also
I did apply to Valve and offered them my services to be a gaming chaplain, but they decided not to hire me as a gaming chaplain. Because Valve's website has a place where you can make up a job and offer them your services and see if they want to hire you.
Me and a buddy that I went to seminary with had the same plan with Epic, because I'm in North Carolina. And so we're right here. We're like, well, Epic's got tons of money. They're just buying forests left and right. Like, surely they can afford a chaplain. Why not see what we can do there? But we never followed through with it. So never went into that chaplaincy career with a video game company, but it could happen. It could certainly be done. I mean, we've got things that are fairly close to it in the esports world. So why not? Why not see where it goes? All right. Well,
esports spiritual advisor.
Right. I mean, why not? What's the harm? We already have some close things here of talking about video games and that kind of stuff. Why not talk about good ethics with the realm of sports? Well, those are all of our.
I didn't realize that professional sports have chaplains for their teams, so maybe someday. But sorry, go on.
Yes. So that has been our news that was submitted via the Discord. Again, if you would like to join the Discord, exclamation Discord in the chat, or discord.gg/checkpointchurch, or down in the description down below. We take news every Monday at around 8 a.m. I post a little question up in the TWIG news section of our Discord, and we would love to get your news submitted, and you could be featured on the show each week. With that, we're going to get into my personal favorite segment of the show.
At this point in nerd history.
It's time for At This Point in Nerd History. This is everything that was released on this day, on June 4th, throughout time and space. Not too many, but the ones that were released are pretty interesting today. So we have a couple games and then one pretty big blockbuster movie that was released. Back in 2013, a lot of people might not recognize this game. I actually haven't played this game, but it has been perpetually on my backlog because it was the predecessor, although not gameplay-wise, to Life is Strange, which is one of my favorite games of all time. This is Don't Nod's first game, 2013, Remember Me. No clue how it actually panned out or what it was like. It looked like a Mirror's Edge-like game, so I don't know if that's how it actually played or what it was about, but an interesting thing nonetheless. 2010, fans of Markiplier, YouTube era internet, Happy Wheels did release on this day in 2010. If you've never seen that game before, I won't even describe it. You should just go look it up. It's hilarious. The game continues to be one that just feels like a classic Flash game to go back to whenever you're bored. In 1999, a game that I always looked at but never even bothered trying to play, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer for the Nintendo 64. I feel like I can still see the cover art. That is one that is just firmly cemented in my memory. 1998, the Game Boy camera is released over in Europe. I did have a Game Boy camera, and I unironically loved the games on the Game Boy camera. I think they are notoriously probably pretty bad, but I remember super enjoying them. There was one in particular that was definitely just a Game & Watch like ball catcher thing, but you had your you could take a picture of your face and your face would be the head on the little ball catcher guy, the little juggler. So that's another core memory that I'll never get rid of. And then in 1989, Nintendo first introduced the Game Boy at CES in Chicago. So that's pretty cool on June 4th in 1989. And then the one movie that was released on this day in nerd history, 2004, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, which was released, which is, I think, one of my favorites. It's been so long since I've watched the Harry Potter movies, but I feel like I enjoyed this one. I know I at least was wanted to be, what's his name? I can't even remember his name right now. Sirius Black. I wanted to be that character. I thought he was cool and edgy. And at some point wanted to be that character. So yeah. Interesting stuff there. Any of those games, or did Prisoner of Azkaban stand out for you there, David?
The funniest thing was when I looked at Happy Wheels, it actually reminded me of a game called Wacky Wheels that I thought it was, and I had to look it up. Turns out no, Wacky Wheels, which is a DOS game released in 1994, much, much, much older than Happy Wheels. So, but yeah, I did not know of Don't Nod's Remember Me, though I'm a huge fan of Don't Nod's games. I do remember other kids having Game Boy cameras, but I never had a Game Boy or any game consoles when I was a kid. So I was just stuck on PC all the time. And yeah, so the Game Boy camera, those things were not really on my radar. And yeah, Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban, definitely was something that I remember. Not sure I would say it's my favorite film, but I don't know that I would rank them personally. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
nothing spectacular standing out for me.
Yeah. It's definitely not one that I could even tell you a single thing that happened in. It has been so long since I've watched any of those. So I have no frame of reference except for thinking that I enjoyed that one growing up. But I was also 2004, so I would have been a fourth grader, and everything was pretty cool to a fourth grader. So just an exciting time in general. With that, do let us know if any of those things stood out to you that you might have been excited for. But we're going to get into our penultimate segment of the show. It is upcoming releases. We used to go through literally everything that was releasing in the next week, but because it was just a bunch of word vomit and nobody could retain anything that we were actually saying, now me and my guests will just pick 3 things that we're excited for in the next week or so. Just upcoming things that are coming out, or it could just be in the near future, since this is a special occasion with David joining us. So we'll go one at a time. I'll start with my first one, and then you can go to one. We'll go back and forth. The thing that I am really excited for this week is Summer Game Fest. I don't know if you're a fan of that. I watch it every year. I'm a big Jeff Keighley fan. I know some people don't like Jeff Keighley, and I don't understand why. I think he's just so corporate and kind. Like he's a great guy. I enjoy watching him. I enjoy his presentation. I enjoy his passion for putting on these two, what I consider to be good shows twice a year. I also like the season that Summer Game Fest kicks off. We're going to have wholesome Game Fest. We're going to have all sorts of showcases back to back over the next couple of days. I think Day of the Devs kicks off with Summer Game Fest. I could be wrong about that one, but we got Day of the Devs coming up. So it just kicks off a really exciting season for gaming. I know everybody's like, oh, but it's not E3, but it is though. Like it's totally a thing that we can make our own E3 and we can get excited about upcoming stuff. I do know we didn't include the articles just because it was kind of coming out after the fact that I put together the show notes, but Jeff Keighley has told everybody to kind of like tamper their excitement. I already have my excitement tampered. Like I don't think that this is going to be some like big like mic drop show. I just think it's going to be a bunch of fun trailers and celebrity guest spots. And if anything, the biggest trailer drops that I normally expect happen during the Wholesome Showcase or during the like indie showcases over the next couple days. I know that Citizen Sleeper 2 is going to get some kind of teaser. I know that Slay the Princess is going to get some kind of teaser. So as an indie game fan, I super enjoy this time, even if not everybody does. So I'm going to be watching it live this Friday night, and I encourage you to join us here on twitch.tv/checkpointchurch for that. With that, let's take it away with your first one, David.
Yeah, my first is just, it's a personal thing. Also just kind of a, thing I'm excited about more than anything else, which is our Crossfire Summer Camp. We're doing the second annual Crossfire Summer Camp in Denver this coming week for, nerdy teenagers, basically from 7th to 12th grade. So I'm just excited about that because as a kid who grew up doing LAN parties, like we're getting to share with some of these kids who have literally never played on the couch together with other kids. They never had the couch co-op era. They've only played Fortnite in the opposite rooms, with the headsets. And so watching them like experience a high five after a co-op game where they're sitting next to each other is really, really neat. And also just bringing some kids into the church environment that are not necessarily churchy kids, but they're willing to be there in order to play the games, so they're like, yeah, I'm interested in this Jesus guy, but like, I'm not really sure about church, but I will come play games and learn about Jesus. So I'm really excited about that. But I will say I am also excited about Summer Game Fest and Next Fest. But the Summer Game Fest, I think the craziest thing to me, I had this moment I was listening to Play Watch Listen with Alana Pierce and the whole rest of that crew. But I feel like I'm having a Mandela effect moment with I thought it was Summer Games Fest, plural, which feels like it should be because it's got there are many games, but it is the Summer Game Fest, which is just, it's like Berenstein Bears. Anyway.
I go back and forth. I think I typed the other day into the announcement for it, Summer Games Fest. And then here I have Summer Game Fest. So really not the best name for it, but it doesn't stick in the mind, but nonetheless, I know that it's happening and I get excited for it. And I get excited for the Game Awards. Like I said, I'm a Keighley shill. I don't know why, but I'm a big fan. And you did mention Next Fest there. So that would be another one of my things that I'm super excited for. For those of you that don't know Next Fest, that is a big bazaar of games that is over on Steam. So there are going to be just dozens, if not, it's normally not 100, but dozens of game demos featured over the course of next week. So we will kind of pause on Checkpoint Church's usually scheduled streams, any of the games we were planning on streaming, and we'll play as many of those Next Fest demos as we can on stream because I love demos, I love indie games, and I'm super excited for this. It happens 3 to 4 times a year now. It used to only be 1 time a year that everybody was hyped for, but now they just had so many entries all the time that they wanted to bring it back more often. So I'm super excited for it. This is where we found out, I think, about Cryptmaster last. I could be wrong about that. But there have been a ton of fun games that have come out of Next Fest that I've been a big fan of, and I will look forward to learning about some of my favorite upcoming indie hits. So, and that's another thing, Summer Game Fest is kicking off. So it's all good stuff. All right, let's take it away with your next one.
Yeah, my next one, which I guess is technically my last one because I mentioned the Summer Camp and Summer Game Fest. But my last one, which is really not nerdy at all, other than its media, is I am just looking forward to The Bear Season 3 coming on Hulu. It is a little bit more mature, so if you're a teenager out there, don't watch it. But it is some of the best television I have seen in a long time. Just great writing, great acting, wonderful show. So I'm looking forward to that coming around in the end of the month, I think.
I didn't know
What
the new
about you?
season was coming out. I super enjoyed season 1, but never got around to season 2. So maybe
Season
I'll cram
2 is
I'll cram
so
season 2 and
good
3 back to back, and
in
it'll
a
just be
totally different way. Oh, it's so good.
nonstop. Yeah, for some reason, I've been so deep into trying to keep up with anime that I've missed out on most, if not all, of the Apple TV shows. And then The Bear was one that I super enjoyed that I wound up just not getting enough time for season 2. So I'm
does that
excited
mean
for
that
it.
you did not watch Severance on Apple
I've never
TV?
seen Severance.
Oh my gosh!
I want to.
As a gamer, it is an interesting like backrooms. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof.
And season 2, I think, just wrapped, maybe, or
Okay.
something along those lines. So, heyo, Moviga, thank you for that raid. Welcome in. We're coming in towards the end of the show, talking about some things that we are excited for. Hope y'all are well. Yeah, The Bear. Interesting stuff. I definitely want to catch up on the season. But at this point, if it's true that we're getting season 3 like this month, then I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait on season 2 and season 3 and just binge them all at once. I do love Jeremy Allen White. Isn't that his name? I'm pretty sure. I've enjoyed him
I think so.
since Lip
And
on Shameless, which is a show that you really shouldn't watch if you're a
Bear
teenager.
season 3
Yeah,
premieres
so.
on June 27th. So June
June
27th,
27th.
which is a mere 23 days away.
Good to know. Well, that's an exciting thing to look forward to for me as well. The final thing that I'm excited for, if you're a fan of comic books, you know the name Frank Miller has been somebody that has been around for quite a while and has done a lot for the scene of graphic novels. And there's a documentary coming out on him this week that I'm particularly excited for. I think that I enjoy a good documentary, and especially one on a writer and auteur that I particularly enjoy. So I will plan on watching that and seeing what I'm able to get out of it. He is certainly an interesting character that can often be very jaded in some of his interviews. So I'm curious to see how the documentary sort of paints him in a particularly different light. Should be interesting stuff. So if you want to check that one out, I don't have the name. I think it's just Frank Miller, American Genius. Frank Miller, American Genius. So very humble title for that one. It's even displaying at a theater. It's at the Cinemark near me. So it's premiering a little bit. If you're into seeing a documentary in a theater, might be for you. All right, with that, we're going to get into our final segment of the show. That's right, it's time for our meme of the week. Our meme of the week for this time comes from Sugar Haiku, and it represents the 5 stages of grief as presented by margarine alternatives to butter. We start with denial. I can't believe it's not butter. Anger. What? Not butter. Bargaining. Could it be butter? Depression. This is not butter. And then acceptance. This is unsalted margarine. So, yep. Pretty cool stuff there. Always a good meme. It is one that did particularly well over in our circles. If you would like to be considered for meme of the week here on the show, use our memes and goofs channel over on our Discord server. We have tons of memes posted there every single week, and the ones that get the most reactions are the ones that end up making it onto the show at the end each week. So good stuff. Good meme. Have you seen that one? Has it been floating around? It's been in all my circles, not just Checkpoint for some reason. I don't know why this one happened to appear, but it made the rounds.
It has not shown up in my circles, though admittedly I've been kind of disconnected from Discord recently, and the little old ladies at church not sharing those memes, not so much. So
you would think of all the people that would care about margarine tubs, it would be little old church ladies, because that is what all leftovers go in. Country Crock has always been where we have had our leftovers here in my neck of the woods. So I don't know if that's a
good
universal
containers.
experience.
Yeah, they're solid.
They're good containers.
Very sturdy.
Good stuff. Well, let us know if you also store your leftovers in Country Crock back in the day. Nowadays, it's in the honey baked ham containers with the red lids. I don't know if you know. Those are the ones that are you better keep those because those are high quality nowadays. Good stuff. With that, we're going to get into the end of our show with our closing notes. And before we get into the true close of the show, I'm going to give David one last chance to tell us who he is, where he's from, shout outs, any of the exciting things, Crossfire, the camp, all that good stuff. Let us know.
Sure thing. Yeah, just wanted to shout out for Crossfire Faith and Gaming. We are also a United Methodist run gaming community, a little bit smaller, a little bit scrappier, but the kind of the unique thing about us, we're a little bit more into the PlayStation side. I know, Nate, you are all about the Nintendo games, but we kind of cover a lot of things between the two of our communities, but yeah, so we are similar to Checkpoint Church, but a little bit different. And then the other thing is that we do this summer camp stuff. So we're doing a summer camp coming up in Denver. Next month, we're going to be in Bozeman and Billings, Montana. And I just can't wait to see like how those go, and also kind of a proof of concept to see, could this be something we could bring to like North Carolina? Could we bring it to an actual summer camp location? So, and huge thanks. Also, just want to shout out huge thanks to you, Nate, for the help that you have given in supporting our efforts through your fundraisers through Checkpoint Church and joining us in our fundraising efforts over at Crossfire. So thank you so much for continuing to support our ministry as well.
Absolutely. Well, I am always a big supporter and proponent. Try to shout out Crossfire whenever I can, because I think that y'all are doing great stuff, and we need more, not less, of the good work of the nerd ministry and digital ministry being done in the UMC. So I will continue to shout that from the mountaintops until we just are truly surrounded by folks in this sphere, because I frankly don't have enough time to serve all the people, and neither does Crossfire, and we need even more that are here to serve this massive community that is the internet. So the work is certainly here. The harvest is plentiful, as they say. So I'm glad to be co-laboring with Crossfire here at Checkpoint. With that, we're going to get into the close of our show. Folks, we are going to go hang out on the Discord after this. If you'd like to come and hang out, we're not going to raid out. Instead, we're going to go directly into our Discord server. I'm going to open up room number 1. I actually have to go after the stream, so I'm not going to be hanging out tonight. But 2 of our guardians, Mayfly and Perspective, are going to be hanging out in room number 1 for the next hour or so, or until they get CP. So it should be a good conversation happening over there. But I want to thank you. This has been TWIG, your weekly, geekly, family-friendly news show delivered live on twitch.tv/checkpointchurch each and every week, keeping your family connected to the world of nerdy news. If you watched this far, you likely enjoyed this one. So remember to give us a 5-star on your podcast app. If you're on Spotify, you have to watch a couple episodes before you can give us that 5-star, but we would still appreciate that. Make sure to click the like button if you're on YouTube. Recommend the show to all of your favorite nerds out there. Folks, we appreciate everyone that watches and follows on all of our channels. We're going to have a special shout out to the folks that are subscribers here on our Twitch channel that support us financially to make sure that this is possible. Thank you to DGC 121996, Duchess 1105, Yakeem 4752, Nerd Pastor Nate, Checkpoint Church, Tini Christina P, Maybe 30 Bats, Zando Calrissian, Sugar Haiku, Deacon Shannon LS, Perspective, Coyote 42, Twyla 27, Strange Dun, Weesh, Sticky Pig 633, Jate Live, Acre Dawnbringer, Trombone Dalek, Tennille Rathana, Mindful Marlena, H-Man 1009, Humar Wit Ill, Wisen Lemur, and Gobi Church. Is there going to be TWIG next week? Yes, indeed, there will. We'd love to see you next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, our usual time. And with that, we're going to close out with our 3 things that we believe to be true about every single one of you out there. Whether you believe in God, don't believe in God, go to church, don't go to church, hate God, hate church, we still believe these 3 things to be true about you. Number 1, that God loves you, like really, really loves you. Number 2, we love you. We want community with you. That's what we're doing here. And number 3, that you, yes, you matter. You are a person of sacred worth. The world is a better place. Why? Because you are in it. Folks, with that, once again, thank you to David Petty of Crossfire Faith and Gaming for being here with us tonight, and be sure to go and join with Perspective and Mayfly over in the Discord. All right, y'all have a good night, and thanks again.